What's up, Melanated family? This is Harrison from Melanated Fathers TV, bringing you the latest news going on in the melanated community. So do me a favor, family. Like I always say, hit that like button, hit that share button so you can be a part of the Melanated Fathers TV YouTube community. Now, what I want to talk about today is maybe earlier this week, some time ago, I mentioned that Netflix was releasing a documentary called Blood Brothers, documenting the relationship between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, right? So I hyped it up. I have a lot of respect for both of these brothers, their ideology, how they were able to stand up in the face of racism at the time that they did, right? So, in my opinion, how they reacted in those times and how they thought should definitely be applauded, right? So I wanted everybody to go check it out. So I finally got an opportunity to check it out. And what I want to do today is give a little review of what I think about the documentary. Now, I might give a few spoilers, so if you haven't seen the documentary yet, you might want to turn this off. You feel me? Turn this off, go watch the documentary, come back. So I may put a couple spoilers in there, but I thought it was important. Like the angle they took to discuss the topic, some things that was revealed that I didn't know, some things that was revealed that I was aware of just based on his book and or Malcolm X's book rather, and other documentaries and things like that, right? So let's get it started. Now, of course, we all know that these two brothers had a genuine friendship, right? Based on the fact that Muhammad Ali Malcolm X at the time was second in command in the Nation of Islam. So from just looking at everything I've seen about his life in that time period, he was like the spokesman for Black America. I mean, Elijah Muhammad was the leader, but he wasn't as charismatic as Malcolm X. So he kind of positioned himself to be the spokesman, right? And that being the case, Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay at the time, was very curious about the nation just based on how well disciplined the brothers were, how much they talked about racism in a particular fashion, how much they talked about white supremacy in a particular fashion. So these things intrigued him, to say the least, right? So as luck would have it, they would eventually run into each other just like on a fluke at like a restaurant or something like that, right? And Muhammad Ali was able to meet Malcolm X, and from that period on, it seems as if they formed a friendship, right? But to me, just to keep it 100, y'all, their friendship, and really, it speaks to Black America. It speaks to the melanated people in this country, like the what can go wrong when you idolize a man, right? Because of like people who are religious, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, Buddhist, Judaism, whatever religion that you practice, I think it's important that we get away from worshiping the man telling the story, the man delivering the message, from the actual message itself. You know what I mean? Because when you look at their friendship and the reason why their friendship ended, I mean, the documentary starts off by basically explaining how the two men would come to be infatuated with the Nation of Islam. Malcolm X, with his past drug, he dealt drugs, he was a pimp, he lived a street life basically, went to the penitentiary. When he got out of the penitentiary, or while he was in the penitentiary, somebody introduced him to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And of course, I think any Black man at that time, even now, a lot of what Allah taught, a lot of what goes into that religion, a lot of what Allah talks about, it's uplifting to the Black man, like speaking about what we've been through and how we should stand up for each other and all these things, right? So, Malcolm X was intrigued by the religion the same way Muhammad Ali was intrigued by the religion. So as fate would have it, he would join the nation. Based on how charismatic he was, based on how dedicated he was, he would move up the ranks pretty fast. And like I said, end up becoming like a spokesman for Black people in this country. Muhammad Ali had somewhat of a similar story, being a young athlete, signing when he was a teenager to this group of 11 white businessmen in Louisville that maybe were still racist men themselves, but seen an opportunity in how quick Muhammad Ali was growing, or Cassius Clay at the time, how quick he was growing as an athlete, and how much promise he actually had, you feel me? But he went to the Olympics and he won the Olympics. And I think one of the turning points in that brother's life at that time was the fact that he went to the Olympics and won the gold medal, came back home, like gold medal around his neck, USA jacket on, you feel me? And still got treated like a nigga. Still was told, still had to deal with the Jim Crow South. You see what I'm saying? Still had to deal with overt racism. So after that point, he actually threw his goddamn gold medal in the river. You feel me? And I think that began his quest to just realizing, hey, something ain't right here, right? I think all black men at that time, if you weren't a coward, if you were self-aware, if you had a backbone, you were able to say, you know what? Something's not right here, and I'm going to do whatever I can to combat what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? So eventually, I think because of this, these brothers would cross paths and they would become pretty good friends, right? But like I said, would ruin their relationship. Like, simple as put, what ruin their relationship, family, is religion. It's religion. I think if both of these men could have got past, or really, shit, in this situation, if Muhammad Ali could have early on got past the fact that this man told you not to like another man. That's really what it boiled down to, because Elijah Muhammad didn't like the fact that Malcolm X was becoming so radical in his thinking, which sounds like an oxymoron, because you're a black militia pretty much, but you don't want one of your members speaking bad about white people. You know what I mean? Like, when I watch the documentary and I think back on that time period, that's kind of weird. And Malcolm was heading toward a direction where, shit, you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. Or because the Muslims were too, but Malcolm was more of, let's go to the front line, let's march with the people, let's be involved with the normal people and take on some of their gripes, opposed to the Muslims' ideal was, we gonna be over here in the cut doing what we gotta do, and as long as nobody don't touch us, we're not gonna touch them. You see what I'm saying? But if you think about that, that's a little counterproductive, just a little bit. If the fight's outside, but you in here trained to fight with a sound mind, sound body, no drugs, no alcohol, you're raising warriors, but for what war? Like, what war are you prepared to actually fight? You know what I mean? So I began to look at, like, the Nation of Islam just a little bit differently, because again, if when it comes to Christianity and Islam, any religion that can make a black man do things better in his life, as far as protect his family, keep a good hand on his shoulders, be positive, like all of the positive attributes that come with religion, I'm so down for it. But the problem lies when there's a man on the other end kind of pulling the strings. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, Elijah Muhammad basically told all the Muslims, don't fuck with Malcolm. You know, we have to look at, and this is just my opinion, family, we have to look at why he's saying don't fuck with Malcolm. So you saying don't fuck with Malcolm because he's outspoken? Because a white president died. We're saying all white men are the devil. That's kind of like our shit. We're calling the white men devil. We're speaking negatively about the white race just as far as what they've done to us, right? This is what the Muslims were doing at the time. This is what Malcolm was doing at the time. Now the biggest white man in the country dies, and I can't say the chickens are coming home to roost. And then they were interviewing Muslims on this documentary, and some of the Muslims was basically saying, shit, I agreed with Malcolm, but I had to side with the Holy Apostle. I had to side with my father. They're calling Elijah Muhammad their father. This is fucking dangerous to treat any man like this. Men are flawed. If you put all your faith in a man, you will be disappointed. I repeat, if you put all your faith in a man, you will ultimately be disappointed. And I think this is a prime example of that, because up until Malcolm X's death, like, because there's a lot of people in our society aren't sure about who killed Malcolm X, right? Like, when we look at everything that's been recorded about it, everything that's been written about it, it looks like Muslims killed Malcolm X. Now, of course, some people will say at the time, FBI was monitoring Malcolm X. They were monitoring Elijah Muhammad. They were monitoring the rift that they had between each other to the point where, to my knowledge, they were sending letters back and forth, just trying to keep the rift going, to keep the separation going like this system likes to see us do, right? So that's understandable. So some people think, well, hey, they even went a step further and had some black men dress up like Muslims to get rid of Malcolm X, because at the time Malcolm X was going to the UN and he was going to other countries, just basically trying to galvanize them to eventually sue United States for human rights laws, like for how we were being treated here, which is big shit, which is something that the government may want to step in and stop. So I'm not 100% excluding the government's participation, but I'll be honest, y'all. Every time they asked a Muslim, and this is on this documentary, this is on other documentaries that I've witnessed. Every time they asked one of the Muslims who were alive at the time of this happening, even going back to the documentary about Malcolm X on Netflix, that was a really good documentary. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out. When speaking to all, because on that documentary, they went as deep as to identify the Muslims who actually killed him, the mosque they were from. And when they interviewed different brothers from that mosque, just like when they interviewed brothers on this documentary, it was like mum is the word. It was like these brothers knew something, they just couldn't say it. And what they kept repeating basically is, he shouldn't have talked shit about Elijah Muhammad. That's basically what they were saying. Right? And in this documentary, they went over, they were showing, because again, the media at the time was trying to put gasoline on this feud just to break the nation up. You feel me? So we have to understand that. But Elijah Muhammad said a lot of shit about Malcolm X. He said a lot of shit about Malcolm X, kind of dog whistling, if you will, as far as what should actually happen to this man. You know what I mean? And all the Muslims they talked to in this documentary, they all basically said when it came up, who killed him, nobody could just answer it. And these are 70, 80-year-old men at this point, right? Nobody was just like the government, Muslims. Nobody kept a simple answer. Everybody kind of just danced around it and kind of focused on the fact that he shouldn't have said what he said about Elijah Muhammad. And it seems like to me, this is just my opinion after watching everything that I've seen, it seems like to me that Elijah Muhammad may not have called the hit directly, but indirectly he did. And then the nail in the coffin, per se, no pun intended, was when Malcolm X spoke about Elijah Muhammad apparently having underage girls, right? So here is the problem. Like, here's a really big problem I had at this point, right? Because Malcolm X was getting ousted from the nation, and a part of the reason why, because they were claiming he was a hypocrite. Like, he was saying one thing and doing another, right? Now, can somebody tell me, in the Nation of Islam, is it okay to sleep with minors? Like, if that's what they preach, then I'll back down off of some of this a little bit. If that's what they preach in their doctrine, that if a woman is under 18, you can sleep with her, as many women as you want. I'm really speaking from ignorance here. I don't know if that's the fact. If that's the fact, then, I mean, okay. I still have a problem with you being this upset at a man for just telling your truth, if that's your truth, because you're supposed to be the holy apostle and all-knowing. You should just be keeping it 100, right? But if it's not in your doctrine where you can actually sleep with teenage girls, then you would be a hypocrite too, sir. So this man is being ostracized by all of your followers because he spoke the truth. And what really bothered me, on this documentary, a brother had the nerve to say, if somebody is bringing you information that you can use, what they do in their personal life, what type of character they are, doesn't matter. And that fucking bothered me. That fucking bothered me, unless you're preaching what you're doing. If you're speaking against injustice, if you're speaking against what's right and wrong, if you're living this completely clean lifestyle, no infidelity, no pork, no smoking, no none of this, you got to show me where it says sleeping with underage girls is okay. And again, I'll back off. If that's not in your doctrine, sir, then you're a hypocrite too. But hence the overall problem of following a man. You feel me? This is my problem with church to a degree. This is my problem with the idea of a pastor. Like, again, if religion has put you in a state of mind that allowed you to better yourself, if religion has brought you to an elevated level of thinking where you're just a great person to the people around you and you're actually outwardly a better person to the people around you, so be it. That keep doing that. If it's keeping you from lying, if it's keeping you from doing drugs, if it's keeping you in the right mentality mentally, I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, I don't need another man to teach me anything, just to be honest. Like, I can take heed to what another man says, but to live and die by another man's words is dangerous in any situation. You know what I mean? And a lot of Elijah Muhammad's followers, in my opinion, family, it was almost like they were following him blindly. And this is just a man with faults, obviously, because some of the Muslims was basically almost saying, well, yeah, he was sleeping with underage girls, so what? Did he give you a good message? Like, nigga, what? Nah. Now, okay, see, here's the thing. So it's levels to it. If you my pastor, or you're someone who's leading me, a quote unquote, and you make mistakes, I'm not going to judge you by those mistakes, but you got to come forth with them. You got to come forth and say, yeah, this is what I'm doing. What? If things are in the dark, then that means you're trying to hide them. Then that speaks to a character issue. That speaks to integrity. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I mean, the nation turned their back on Malcolm X. All of the followers did. A whole bunch of dog whistling went on. The brother ended up getting killed. Something else that I just hated to witness that I did not know happened. Muhammad Ali actually went on like a little tour damn near after Malcolm X died, and this fool is basically saying, good, he dead. Good. He shouldn't have. He basically saying anybody who speak negatively of Elijah Muhammad should be dead. This is dangerous. This is dangerous rhetoric. Anytime man is being worshipped to this magnitude, we got a goddamn problem. And then to make matters worse, of course, years later, Muhammad Ali would regret treating Malcolm X the way he did before he died, even though he was standing on some bullshit at the time. He eventually moved away from the Nation of Islam to a degree. Because basically, I think this is all like, the moral of this story should be a critical thinker. Like, think on your own. You can be enamored by a particular way of life offered by a religion. You can take things from this religion, add it to what you want to do, add it to who you are as a person, and keep moving forward. I think Muhammad Ali suffered from being too dedicated. You know what I mean? It was like the same thing that brought them together is the same thing that tore them apart. You know what I mean? And Malcolm X, of course, Muhammad Ali would later come out and say, like I said, he would come out and say how he regretted it. He would tell people he regretted it. He became friends with Malcolm X's kids. You know what I mean? He understood that he made a mistake, but it's too late. You know what I mean? Malcolm, think about how alone he felt at that time. Think about that, because what was this man actually doing? He came out and spoke about another man. Another man. Elijah Muhammad was a man. He ended up dying at like 77 years old or something like that. He flesh and blood. He died like everybody else. He not God. He not. The person giving you the message, this is my opinion, family. The person giving you the message of God should not be treated like God. You're just a vessel for God, right? We're all God's children, right? We're all the same. What makes you different? He came down and appointed you. That's actually bullshit, in my opinion. You feel me? So ultimately, it's a great documentary. I think everybody should watch it, just for perspective. Nonetheless, like I mentioned before, anything about these two brothers, I'm always keen to check it out, get a good understanding of some of the things they went through. Of course, I read Malcolm X's book, one of the first books that I actually read. That was a great book if you guys haven't read the autobiography of Malcolm X. So I know I gave away a few spoilers in this video, but go check out the documentary, Blood Brothers, detailing the relationship between Malcolm X and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Some good information, but the moral of the story is, do not worship man. If there is a particular ideology that you want to follow, you need to learn how to do that shit without worshiping the person who gave it to you. You feel me? So this is your boy Harrison, man. This is Harrison, Melanated Fathers TV. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the Melanated Fathers TV YouTube channel. I'm out.